Hello everyone. A big hi to all my beautiful children out there. I am C.MALARVIZHI Arul, working as a TGT in Thilliyadi Valliyamai Government High School, KATHIRKAMAM. Today we learn about a poem titled On Killing a Tree, written by G. Patel. The title is different, isn't it? Yes, because we usually say cutting a tree and not killing a tree. This is about the poem. And about the poet, he is G. Patel. He is an Indian poet. He lives in Mumbai. And another information about the poet is that he is a doctor by profession. Okay, dear children, shall we move on to the lesson? We have been under a very long vacation, right? Do you still need a vacation? We are all fed up with such a long vacation, and I am eagerly waiting to meet you all at school. And now, just to learn something, I could say that we are back. Before moving into the class, I just want you to know some interesting facts about trees. Right? Shall we know the interesting facts? Yes, children. The first fact is that trees are the longest living organisms on earth, meaning the trees have a very long lifespan. They live many years when compared to other living organisms. The next interesting fact is that a mature leafy tree produces oxygen for 10 people to inhale in a year. A mature tree is sufficient enough to give oxygen for 10 people to inhale. Oxygen is a life supporter of human beings. The next fact is that 1 acre of trees can remove up to 2.6 tons of carbon dioxide each year. Besides giving oxygen for human beings, they also remove the toxic carbon dioxide from the environment. The next fact is that 1 tree filters up to 27 kg of pollutants from air. They give us oxygen, they clean carbon dioxide, and they also filter the pollutants from the air, thereby giving us purified air. Now let's move on to the class. You might be wondering why the interesting facts about trees. What are we going to do by knowing these facts? Since our lesson is connected to trees, the lesson we are going to learn is about trees. I thought it might be very useful for all of us to know some facts about the trees. Today, we are going to learn a poem called On Killing a Tree by Dr. G. Patel. I want to give a stress to the title of the poem, On Killing a Tree. Children, do you wonder, isn't the title different? Yes, dear children, it is different in the title itself. Can you say a reason? Yes, my dear children, you are correct. We usually say cutting a tree and we never say killing a tree. But here, the poet G. Patel wanted to give importance on killing a tree. Now, shall we move on to the poem, dear children? Before moving on to the poem, we'll just know some facts about the poet. The poet is Dr. G. Patel. He lives in Mumbai. He writes poems and plays in English, and his poems appeared in the Illustrated Weekly of India. Besides being a poet, a writer, an interesting fact is that he practices medicine. He is a doctor by profession. He is writing poems. Now we'll move on to the poem. You just listen carefully. I'll read it for you. On Killing a Tree. It takes much time to kill a tree. It takes much time to kill a tree. Not a simple jab of the knife will do it. Not a simple jab of the knife will do it. It has grown, slowly consuming the earth, rising out of it, feeding upon its crust, absorbing years of sunlight, air, water, and out of its leprous hide, sprouting leaves. I'll repeat it again. It takes much time to kill a tree. Not a simple jab of the knife will do it. It has grown, slowly consuming the earth, rising out of it, feeding upon its crust, absorbing years of sunlight, air, water, and out of its leprous hide sprouting leaves. So hack and chop, but this alone won't do it. Not so much pain will do it. The bleeding bark will heal, and from close to the ground will rise curled green twigs, miniature boughs, which, if unchecked, will expand again to farmer size. I'll repeat the second stanza again for you. Just listen. So hack and chop, but this alone won't do it. Not so much pain will do it. The bleeding bark will heal, and from close to the ground will rise curled green twigs, miniature boughs, which, if unchecked, will expand again to farmer size. No, the root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. It is to be roped, tied, and pulled out, snapped out, or pulled out entirely, out from the earth cave, and the strength of the tree exposed. The source white and wet, the most sensitive hidden for years inside the earth. No, the root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. It is to be roped, tied, and pulled out, snapped out, or pulled out entirely, out from the earth cave, and the strength of the tree exposed. The source white and wet, the most sensitive hidden for years inside the earth. Then the matter of scorching and choking in sun and air, browning, hardening, twisting, withering, and then it is done. Then the matter of scorching and choking in sun and air, browning, hardening, twisting, withering, and then it is done. Dr. Jiv Patel. Okay, dear children, now we'll just move on to the explanation of the first stanza of the poem. It takes much time to kill a tree, not a simple jab of the knife will do it. The poet says that to kill a tree, it needs more time to kill a tree, and it is not possible to kill a tree just a simple jab. Jab means a blow, a stab. Just imagine a woodcutter cutting a tree. Is it possible for the woodcutter to just cut the tree with a single blow, with a single stroke? No. The tree needs heavy and vigorous blow to be cut down. It has grown, slowly consuming the earth, rising out of it, feeding upon its crust. How has the tree grown? The tree has grown, slowly consuming the earth. What do you mean by consuming? Feeding on, taking in energy. The tree consumes the earth, that is, it takes its nourishment, it takes its nutrients from the earth, it takes the water from the earth, and it rises out of the earth. It comes out of the earth, feeding upon its crust. What do you mean by crust? It is the outer hard surface. The tree feeds upon the earth's surface. It not only consumes the earth, it not only feeds upon the crust, it also absorbing years of sunlight, air, water. I think you are aware of the fact that the essential requirements of a tree to grow are sunlight, air, and water. Likewise, here the tree absorbs sunlight, air, and water, and out of its leprous hide, sprouting leaf. Just note the word leprous hide. It is very important. Leprous. Here, the poet compares the bark of the tree with that of a person, with that of a human being who has some skin problem. That person's skin is very dry, patched, cracked also. And likewise, the bark of the tree is also dried. It is cracked. The poet uses this word to explain the texture of the tree's bark. And from the dried bark, from the broken bark, sprouting leaves, tiny leaves, greeny leaves thus start to grow. This is the first stanza. Even more clear meaning of the stanza in Tamil. G. Patel poet ஒரு மரத்தை எப்படி நாம கொல்றது, டைட்டிலே டிஃப்ரெண்டான டைட்டில் தான். ஏன்னா நாம எப்பவுமே மரத்தை வெட்டுறதை பத்தி தான் பேசுவோம். ஆனா கொல்றது, அந்த மரத்தை கொலை பண்றது அப்படின்ற அர்த்தத்துல நாம பேச மாட்டோம். அப்போ ஒரு மரத்தை கொல்றது வேற, வெட்டுறது வேற அப்படின்றத போய்ட் டிஃபரன்ஷியேட் பண்ணி காமிக்கிறதுக்காக தான் இந்த ஒரு டைட்டில் எடுத்திருக்காரு. ஒரு மரத்தை கொல்றதுக்கு அதிக நேரம் தேவைப்படுதுன்னு சொல்றாரு. அதே போல ஒரு சிம்பிள் ஜாப், ஒரே ஒரு வெட்டுனால, கத்தியை கொண்டு ஒரே ஒரு வெட்டினா அந்த மரம் சாகாது. அந்த மரம் எப்படி வளர்ந்துருக்குனாக்கா, பூமியில இருந்து அதுக்கு தேவையான சத்துக்கள், தண்ணி எல்லாத்தையும் எடுத்துக்கிட்டு அதுக்கு தேவையான சன்லைட், ஏர், வாட்டர், சூரியன், நீர், காத்து இது எல்லாத்தையும் எடுத்துக்கிட்டு வளர்ந்துருக்கு. அண்ட் அவுட் ஆஃப் இட்ஸ் லெப்ரஸ் ஹைட், இந்த இடத்துல போய்ட் என்ன செய்யறாருன்னா, அந்த மரத்தினுடைய வெளிப்பட்டைய ஒரு தோல் பிரச்சனை உள்ள ஒரு மனிதனுடைய தோலோட ஒப்பிட்டு இருக்காரு. அந்த மனிதனோட தோல் எப்படி இருக்குன்னாக்கா வறண்டு போய் வறட்சியா, சில சமயம் பிளந்து போய் லேசா வெடிச்சு இருக்கும். அந்த இடத்துல இருந்து அழகான இலைகள் துளிர் விடுறது அப்படின்னு சொல்லி கம்பேர் பண்ணிருக்காரு. I hope you are very clear with the meaning of the first stanza. Okay, dear children, now we'll just recall some of the meanings that we learned in the first stanza. Okay, what's the meaning of jab? Stab, blow. I'll repeat. Jab means stab or blow. Consuming, to use as fuel or energy. Here it refers to eating, what the tree takes in to grow. Consuming, to use as fuel or energy. Crust means hard outer surface. I'll repeat. Crust means hard outer surface. Now coming to the next word, leprous. What does leprous mean? It means rough surface. Here it refers to the bark of the tree. Okay, dear children, now we'll move on to the next stanza, the second stanza of the poem. The second stanza, so hack can chop, but this alone won't do it. The poet in the first stanza says that a single cut is not enough to kill a tree. So now the person is supposed to do something to kill a tree. What should he do? He should hack and chop. What do you mean by hack? Giving continuous blow, continuous and vigorous blow. Hit the tree, cut the tree repeatedly and forcefully. Chop. Chop means cutting into fine pieces. And even if you hack and chop, the poet continues, but this alone won't do it. The poet says, even if you hack and chop the tree, that is not enough to kill a tree. Not much pain will do it. It doesn't require so much pain. The bleeding bark will heal. Listen carefully, children. The bleeding bark. Do you think a tree can bleed? No. Okay. Who will bleed? Yes, my dear children, a human being will bleed when we accidentally have a cut on our hand. Blood comes out of that wounded part, isn't it? How we say that? He says that, miss, he is bleeding. He got cut, he is bleeding. Bleeding means blood is coming out of the wounded part. Here, the poet compares the tree with that of a person who is bleeding. Just like a person bleeds when he has a cut, the tree also bleeds. Does blood come out of the tree? No, my dear children. A liquid substance comes out of the part. It is called sap. So this word is to be noted, bleeding bark. Here the poet compares the tree's bark with that of a human being. The bleeding bark will heal. The bleeding bark has the ability to heal. What do you mean by heal? To cure. It has the capacity by nature to heal its wound. Self-recovery, and from close to the ground will rise curled twigs, and after the bark has healed itself, close to the ground, what will rise? Curled green twigs. Some curled green twigs, green leaves will arise. Miniature boughs. Miniature, they are small in kind, they are very small. Usually the branches of trees are big, but here it is very small, and so it is referred to as a miniature bough, which if unchecked will expand again to former size. And here, if we didn't notice that the cut tree has grown small green twigs and we just leave it aside on its own, the tree has the mighty power to grow again, to expand in size into its former size. Former size means the huge bigger tree that was before we just cut the tree. Okay children, for better understanding, we'll just know the meaning in Tamil. Poet என்ன சொல்றாருனாக்கா, ஒரே ஒரு வெட்டுனால அந்த மரத்தை நம்மளால கில் பண்ண முடியாது. அப்ப என்ன செய்ய சொல்றாரு? ஹேக் அண்ட் சாப் பண்ண சொல்றாரு. ஹேக்னா பலமான தொடர்ச்சியான வெட்டணும்னு சொல்றாரு. சாப் பண்ணினா துண்டு துண்டா கட் பண்ணணும்னு சொல்றாரு. அப்ப இதெல்லாம் செய்யறோம். முதல்ல வெட்டினோம், அப்புறம் வேகமான பலமான தொடர்ச்சியான அடிகளால வெட்டணும், துண்டு துண்டா வெட்டணும். வெட்டின பிறகு என்ன ஆச்சு? வெட்டின பிறகும் நம்மளால என்ன செய்ய முடியல? அந்த மரத்தை கொல்ல முடியல. இதெல்லாம் செய்யறதுக்கு அதிகமான வலியும் தேவைப்படல. ஒரு மரத்தை நம்ம வெட்டினோம்னாக்கா என்ன ஆகும்? போயட் அந்த வெட்டின மரத்தை யாரோட கம்பேர் பண்றாருன்னு பார்க்கலாமா? The bleeding bark will heal. போயட் என்ன சொல்றாரு? bleeding bark ன்னு சொல்றாரு. இந்த இடத்துல போயட் அந்த மரத்தை, வெட்டப்பட்ட மரத்தை ஒரு மனிதனோட கம்பேர் பண்றாரு. இன்டைரக்ட் கம்பேரிசன். இந்த இடத்துல போயட் என்ன சொல்றாரு? அந்த வெட்டின மரத்துல இருந்து bark bleed பண்ணுது அப்படின்னு சொல்றாரு. The bleeding bark ன்னு சொல்றாரு. என்ன சொல்ல வர்றாருன்னா, வெட்டப்பட்ட இடத்துல இருந்து மனுஷனுக்கு எப்படி ரத்தம் வருமோ அதே போல இந்த மரத்துக்கும் ஒரு திரவம் வெளியில வருது அப்படின்னு சொல்றாரு. இந்த வெட்டப்பட்ட மரம் என்ன செய்யுது? will heal. இதுக்கு தன்னைத்தானே தன் காயத்தை ஆத்திக்கிற சக்தி உண்டு. அதோட என்ன செய்யறாரு? அதுக்கப்புறம் வெட்டியாச்சு, ஹேக் பண்ணியாச்சு, சாப் பண்ணியாச்சு. அதுக்கப்புறம் என்ன செய்யுது? அந்த ப்ளீடிங் பார்க் தன்னுடைய காயத்தை தானே ஆத்திக்குது. அண்ட் ஃப்ரம் க்ளோஸ் டு த கிரவுண்ட், அந்த காயத்தை ஆத்தின பிறகு பூமிக்கு அடியில இருந்து என்ன செய்யுது? அழகான வளர்ந்த பச்சையான கிளைகள், சின்ன சின்ன கிளைகள், மினியேச்சர் போஸ், குட்டி குட்டி கிளைகள் எல்லாம் அந்த வெட்டப்பட்ட இடத்துல இருந்து வருது. அப்படி அந்த வெட்டப்பட்ட இடத்துல இருந்து வளரக்கூடிய அந்த சின்ன அழகான தளிவிடும் இலைகளை நம்ம கவனிக்காம அது மட்டும் இருக்கட்டும் அப்படின்னு விட்டுட்டோம்னாக்கா, நம்ம வெட்டிட்டோமே அப்படின்னு சொல்லி விட்டுட்டோம்னாக்கா அது என்ன ஆகுமா? ஏற்கனவே எப்படி இருந்ததோ அவ்வளவு பெரிய மரமாக சின்னதா தான் இருக்கு. இப்ப வெட்டிட்டோம், வெட்டின இடத்துல குட்டியா தான் இருக்குது. அதை கவனிக்காம விட்டோம்னாக்கா அது என்ன செய்யுமா? அதுக்கு என்ன சக்தி இருக்காம்? மிகப்பெரிய மரமாக, வெட்டப்படுறதுக்கு முன்னாடி எவ்வளவு பெரிய மரமா இருந்ததோ அந்த அளவுக்கு ஒரு பெரிய மரமா வளர்றதுக்கு சக்தி இருக்கு. Okay dear children, we'll just recall some of the meanings that we learned in the second stanza. Shall we? Yes dear children. What do you mean by hack? Hack means cut with a rough and heavy blow. I'll repeat. Hack means cut with rough and heavy blow. Heal refers to the act of curing. Heal means cure. Okay dear children, now we'll move on to the next stanza of the poem. No, the root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. Okay. In the first stanza, we just cut the tree. In the second stanza, we were asked to chop and hack the tree. But thus, all these activities were not enough to just kill a tree. So, what should be done in order to kill a tree? Yes, the root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. The root, which is the source of strength to the tree, has to be pulled out from the anchoring earth. Here, the root is fixed, deeply fixed in the earth, and this deeply fixed root has to be pulled out. Root of the tree, it is to be roped, tied, and pulled out, snapped out. It has to be roped, tied, and then pulled out, and then snapped out. All these words refer to the action of just pulling the root out of the earth or pulled out entirely. This word is to be noted. The root has to be pulled out entirely, meaning no left pieces of the root should be there in the ground. If just a small piece of root is left in the ground, it has the ability to grow again. Where the root has been pulled out? It has been pulled out from the earth cave. Here, the poet compares the earth to a cave and the root resides in the cave and it has to be pulled out from the earth cave and the strength of the tree exposed. Yes, Where lies the strength of the tree, dear children? Strength of the tree lies in its roots. It is strong. It has the ability to grow again, even if it is cut, even if it is hacked, even if it is chopped. The source white and wet. The source here refers to the root. That is the source. That is the source of the tree. It is white and wet. The most sensitive, hidden for years inside the earth. It is the most sensitive part of the tree. And how was it? It is hidden inside the earth. It has been hidden inside the earth for many years. While seeing a tree, we can only see the part that is above the ground. We cannot see what is under the earth. So, we say the root is hidden under the earth. Okay. Now, to be more clear, we'll know the meaning in Tamil. Okay. முதல் ஸ்டான்ஸால போயட் மரத்தை வெட்ட சொன்னாரு. அதுக்கப்புறம் சாப் பண்ணோம். அதுக்கப்புறம் ஹேக் பண்ணோம். அப்படியே அந்த மரத்துக்கு என்ன சக்தி இருந்தது? மறுபடியும் வளர்றதுக்கு ஒரு சக்தி இருந்தது. அப்ப என்னதான் செய்யணும் நாம? அந்த மரத்தை வெட்டுறதுக்கு என்ன செய்யணும்? இதெல்லாம் பண்ணியும் மரம் என்ன செஞ்சது? மரத்துக்கு திரும்பி வளர்ற அந்த சக்தி இருந்தது. பாரதியினுடைய வரிகள் ஞாபகம் வருதா? நான் வீழ்வேன் என்று நினைத்தாயோ அப்படின்னு பாரதி சொல்லுவார் இல்லையா? அதே போல நம்ம வெட்டன பிறகும் அந்த மரத்துக்கு என்ன சக்தி இருந்தது? வீழாம மறுபடியும் எழுவதற்கு சக்தி இருந்தது. அப்ப என்ன செய்யணும் அந்த மரத்தை கொல்றதுக்கு? The root has to be pulled out. மரத்தினுடைய சக்தி எங்க இருக்குது? அதனுடைய வேர்ல இருக்கு. அப்ப அந்த வேரை நாம பூமியில இருந்து வெளியில எடுத்தாதான் அந்த மரத்தை கொல்ல முடியும். அந்த வேர் என்ன செய்யுது? அந்த பூமியில பிக்ஸ் ஆயிருக்கு, புதைஞ்சு இருக்குது. அப்ப அப்படிப்பட்ட பலமான வேரை நம்ம எப்படி வெளியில எடுக்கலாம்? அதை ரோப் பண்ணணும். அதை கயிறால, பலமான கயிறால கட்டி இழுத்து வெளியில இழுக்கணும். பலம் கொண்டு இழுக்கணும். முழுவதுமா இழுக்கணும். ஏன் முழுவதுமா இழுக்கணும்? ஆர் புல்ட் அவுட் என்டையர்லி. ஏன் இழுக்கணும்? நம்மள அறியாம ஏதோ ஒரு பகுதியான வேர் பூமியில இருந்ததுனாக்கா அது மறுபடியும் வளர்றதுக்கு அதுக்கு சக்தி இருக்குது. அவுட் ஃப்ரம் த எர்த் கேவ். இந்த இடத்துல பூமிய போயட் என்னவா கம்பேர் பண்றோம்னா ஒரு குகை மாதிரி கம்பேர் பண்றாரு. அதுல இருந்து நம்ம என்ன செய்யணுமோ அந்த வேரை வெளியில இழுக்கணும். அப்படி வெளியில இழுத்த வேர் என்னவாகுது? அந்த ஸ்ட்ரென்த் ஆஃப் த ட்ரீ எக்ஸ்போஸ். அதுதான் அந்த ட்ரீனுடைய ஸ்ட்ரென்த். அந்த மரத்தினுடைய முழு பலமும் எதுல இருக்குது? வேர்ல இருக்கு. அது இப்ப என்ன ஆச்சு? எக்ஸ்போஸ் ஆயிடுச்சு. எக்ஸ்போஸ்னா வெளியில கொண்டு வந்தாச்சு. அந்த வேர் எப்படி இருக்கு? த சோர்ஸ் ஒயிட் அண்ட் வெட். வெள்ளையாவும் ஈரப்பதம் உள்ளதாவும் இருக்கு. அது எப்படிப்பட்டது? த மோஸ்ட் சென்சிட்டிவ். ரொம்பவும் சென்சிட்டிவான, மென்மையானது. எப்படி இருந்தது? ஹிடன் ஃபார் இயர்ஸ் இன்சைட் த எர்த். பூமிக்கு அடியில மறைஞ்சிருந்தது. ஏன்? பூமிக்கு வெளியில உள்ள மரத்தை தான் நம்மளால பார்க்க முடியும். பூமிக்கு அடியில மண்ணுக்குள்ள புதைஞ்சிருக்க வேற நம்மளால பார்க்க முடியாது. Okay, dear children, now we'll just learn some of the meanings of the third stanza. Anchoring. What does anchoring mean? Fixed. Here it refers to the root which is fixed deep in the earth. Anchoring means fixed. Snapped. It means breaking. All these actions mainly used by the poet refer to the act of cutting, chopping, that which is required to kill a tree. Okay, dear children, now we'll move on to the last stanza of the poem. Then the matter of scorching and choking in sun and air, browning, hardening, twisting, withering, and then it is done. I'll repeat. Then the matter of scorching and choking in sun and air, browning, hardening, twisting, withering, and then it is done. Okay. What happens when the root has been pulled out? It is exposed to the extreme conditions. It is exposed to the extreme sun. It is exposed to extreme air. It is exposed to extreme water when it rains. Scorching. Once when we are exposed to extreme sun, very hot, extremely hot, our skin start to burn. And choking, a person feeling difficult to breathe. Once the root has been pulled out, it feels difficult to breathe. It feels difficult to live. In sun and air, the root is exposed to sun and air, and so it suffocates. And then various processes occur which finally kills the tree. What are the processes? Browning, the change of color. Hardening, the change of texture. The soft tree now just hardens. Twisting, the tree changes its shape. Withering, and it withers off. It falls off. and finally what is expected has been achieved, and then it is done. What is done? The killing of the tree. So all these activities, it is exposed to extreme sun, it feels difficult to breathe, it browns, its color gets changed, it gets hardened, it twists itself and it withers, and then it is done, and finally what we have been waiting for has occurred. The tree has been killed with our mighty effort. Okay, dear children, do you just understand the final stanza, the fourth stanza of the poem? Okay, I'll just say the meaning again in Tamil. கடைசியா இவ்வளவு செயல்கள் நாம செஞ்சு முடிச்ச பிறகு மரத்தினுடைய உயிரான வேற வெளியில எடுத்துட்ட பிறகு என்ன ஆகுது? அது எக்ஸ்ட்ரீம் கண்டிஷன், ரொம்ப அதிகமான சூரியன், காத்து, தண்ணீர், இது எல்லாத்துக்கும் அது உட்படுத்தப்படுது. அது சோக்கிங் தான், மூச்சு விட சிரமப்படுறது எங்க? வெயிலையும் காத்துலயும். அதுக்கப்புறம் வெளியில நம்ம இழுத்து விட்ட அந்த வேர் என்ன செய்யுது? அது கலர் மாறுது, பிரவுன் ஆகுது, ஹார்ட் ஆகுது, கடினமாகுது, ட்விஸ்ட், சுருண்டுகுது, விதர் ஆகுது, உதிர்ந்து போகுது கடைசியில. இது எல்லாம் நடந்த பிறகுதான் என்ன செய்ய முடியுது? நம்மளால அந்த மரத்தை கொல்ல முடியுது. Okay, I hope you understand the meaning of the poem. Now we'll just recall the meaning of the final stanza. Shall we, dear children? Scorching means extremely hot. What do you mean by scorching? It means extremely hot. What do you mean by choking? I just said you before while teaching, right? It is feeling difficult to breathe. Feels difficult in breathing, we say he is choking. Choking means difficult to breathe. Okay, dear children, the poem is on killing a tree. We just learned in the poem what has to be done in order to kill a tree. So is that the message that is expected by the poet? No, dear children. We should know how to save a tree. Why to save a tree, dear children? Why is it important? Why trees are important? Do you know why trees are important? I'll tell you, my dear children. Trees, they give us oxygen and take in carbon dioxide. They purify the air. They prevent soil erosion. They provide shelter for many animals, insects and birds. Besides these, there are many trees which have life-saving medicinal values. To be just precise, we can say we depend on the trees for everything, right from the food to fuel. And what will happen if there are no trees? Just a single line. No trees, no life. So save trees, my dear children, and plant a tree on occasions. Okay, dear children, we have almost come to the end of this session, and now we'll just know the gist of the poem. Just recollect what has been taught in all the four stanzas. The gist of the poem. The poet tells us the difference between the cutting of trees and killing of trees. The poet wants to give importance that cutting is different and killing is different. Because when we cut a tree, that doesn't mean we kill a tree, because the tree has the capacity to grow again. According to him, cutting is the type of trimming which is required for the proper growth of trees, but it takes much time to kill a tree. According to him, cutting is trimming, actually cutting the unwanted branches of the trees for the proper growth, but that is different from killing. And he says that it takes too much time to kill a tree. He also says that just a simple jab, a simple cut, a simple stroke is not enough to kill a tree. The tree grows slowly, getting its nourishment from the earth. It consumes the nourishment from the earth. It takes the water. It also takes in sunlight, air and water for its growth. We just cut the tree, we hacked and chopped the tree, but that is not enough to kill the tree, and finally we have found the way to kill the tree. What is that? The root. The root, which acts as the strength of the tree, has been pulled out in order to kill the tree. And after the root has been exposed to extreme climatic conditions, it has browned, it has hardened, it has twisted, and it finally withered, and finally the tree is dead. Okay, dear children, now we'll just recollect some of the literary devices that the poet has used in the poem. The rhyme scheme. As said earlier, the poem is a free verse poem and no specific rhyme scheme has been followed while writing the poem, and so there are no rhyming words in the poem. Coming to the next poetic device, it is enjambment. I repeat, enjambment. It means one sentence continues in two or more lines. Example, not a simple jab of knife will do it. It has grown slowly consuming the earth. It is nothing but the continuation of the first sentence with that of the second sentence and the continuation of the second sentence with that of the third sentence. Now we'll move on to the third poetic device that the poet has used in the poem. It is metaphor. It is nothing but an indirect comparison. I have explained this particular word I have said this word indirect comparison. The poet compares the tree with that of something else. That is metaphor. First one is leprous hide. The uneven color of the surface of the trunk of a tree is compared to the skin of a person suffering from the disease. Here, the trunk of the tree is compared to the person who is suffering from a disease, and hence it is a metaphor. Coming to the next metaphor, it is bleeding bark. Here, the poet compares the bark of the tree with that of a person, with that of a human being who is bleeding. Only human beings bleed, but not a tree. But here, the poet compares it with a human being who is bleeding. The sap coming out of the tree where it is cut is compared to the bleeding from the wound in a human body. The next literary device that has been used is alliteration. Do you remember, dear children, alliteration? It is the repetition of a consonant sound in two or more closely placed words. Repeats a same sound repeats in a sentence. Bleeding bark, the sound b is repeated, and hence it is an example of alliteration. Another case of alliteration is white and wet. The source white and wet, it refers actually to the root. It is white and wet. It is an example of alliteration. Now moving on to the final literary device that the poet has used is the repetition. Repetition is repeating a thing to lay emphasis. A word or sentence is repeated to lay emphasis on it. Here the poet has repeatedly used the word pulled out because he wants to give importance to that word pulled out. Why? Because the killing of tree lies in pulling out of the root, and hence he has repeated the word pulled out in his poem, and hence it is an example of repetition. Okay, dear children, we have almost come to the end of the class and it is time for homework, assignment. Shocked, dear children? I hope you definitely should have forgotten those words, homework and assignment. No problem. Just brush up your memory and then do the assignment, do the follow-up words. The first work is that the first two stanzas of the poem are to be memorized. Dear children, just learn the first two stanzas of the poem thoroughly and then write it twice or thrice. That will help you to memorize the poem. This is the first homework for you. The second assignment for you is that you can just see the first stanza here. It is also in your book. So you needn't copy all these poetic lines. You have to just read all these poetic lines and answer the questions given. The first question is name the poem and poet. You have to name the poem, the title of the poem. Are you familiar with that? Yes, it is On Killing a Tree and the poet is Jiv Patel. You have to write the poem is On Killing a Tree and the poet is Jiv Patel. The second question, can we kill a tree with a simple jab? Can. This is a yes or no question, and so your answer should begin either with yes or no. What is the answer for this question? Is it possible to kill a tree with a simple jab of a knife? No. No, we cannot kill a tree with a simple jab of a knife. How does a tree grow up? The answer is here. The tree grows consuming the earth. The tree grows up consuming the earth. You can also add takes in sunlight, air and water if you want. It is in the fourth question. What does it absorb for years? Absorbing years of sunlight, air and water. It absorbs, add an yes here, sunlight, air and water. You should know to start your answer from the question and just complete the answer. What does the tree symbolize in this poem? Here the tree symbolizes a person suffering from a skin disease. You can write on your own. Okay, the final assignment for you is that it is an assignment actually. You have to write an assignment on the topic called Chipko movement. I'll repeat, Chipko movement. If possible, you collect pictures of Chipko movement and write what is Chipko movement, when and why it has been started, and what are the activities performed by the Chipko movement. If you want to repeat, I'll repeat Chipko movement. I'll spell it for you. C-H-I-P-K-O. Chipko movement. I hope, dear children, you definitely would have understood the poem very well. It is very simple. It is written in simple language. It is easy to understand. Dear children, we have come to the end of our class. I hope you are very clear about the poem. I hope you understood how trees are important to our life and hope you save the trees for your generation. Do the assignments given to you properly. Learn the poem. You will understand it better. We'll meet in another class. Thank you.